As Kenya joins the globe in marking the World Wildlife Day, wildlife conservationists have raised concern over the emerging challenges such as human-wildlife conflict and poaching for either trade or consumption, which have been blamed for the steady decline in the wildlife population, with some species at risk of extinction. Serfin Acheng Aoma was in Kajiado County and brings you the story of how wildlife conservationists are engaging communities in changing the narrative and to put a stop to the illegal wildlife trade.
Approximately a 3-hour drive from Kenya's capital, Nairobi, towards the southern side, we arrive in Kajiado County. Over 1.1 million people live in this county, which also hosts one of Kenya's most popular parks, the Amboseli National Park. The sight of this giraffe majestically crossing the road right before us is a clear indication that we are entering a territory where man and wildlife coexist, and we are on a mission to find out exactly how that happens. Our mission takes us to Elangatangima area in Loitoktok, the bumpy ride under the scorching sun, almost making our mission impossible. But we are lucky to make it just in time to catch a wildlife conservation meeting between the community members, wildlife conservationists, and the Kenya Wildlife Service. A forum that has unearthed emerging challenges such as human-wildlife conflict and poaching for trade and consumption.
Huyu ni ushuhuda. Naona mzee mnaona sana. Tukalani yeye. Tukalani msikambia ukikula na hiyo mnyama itakuwa mbaya. Kwa hivyo mfano unatoa, tuwe mfano ambao wale wamewacha na wale wanakula. Asante.
Hawa poachers.
Wale kulo poachers.
Wanatumia vijana wenu hapa.
Na kitumia kulo vijana linyi.
Wareni tu anatumika hapa ama lion ile anajua
kutumia ile hiyo kada hero kwa mhana.
Unaambia nichukulie mzigo.
Kede yake yeye lo mzigo.
Na ulisi hiyo mzigo iko nini ndani?
Nimedoka nyuna lo mzigo.
Such engagements have been pivotal in encouraging behavior change. A good example is this reformed poacher, who we shall call Bar Masai to conceal his identity. He is now a wildlife defender. Bar Masai was among the first people in his community to buy a motorcycle. He had hoped to use it to ferry hay and water for his livestock, but his neighbor had better plans that involved using his motorcycle to smuggle bushmeat, and that is how he was lured into illegal wildlife trade in 2013. The trips for Bar Masai increased, which meant more money for his pocket, but that was not all.
Kafanya hivyo ikafika mahali yule jirani yangu akaja akaniambia kuliko sasa uwe unatubebea na unapata pesa kidogo, naona sisi tunapata pesa mingi, si twende tu tukupeleke leo, hata wewe uende uingie hiyo kazi tufanye wote pamoja, twende na pikipiki tukafanye, tukimaliza tubebe na pikipiki na tugawe pesa wote. Nikaeka ile tamaa, nikaona ni kweli hiyo pesa ni mingi, acha niende. Tukaenda tukapata twiga.
His first lesson that night was on mastering the art of poaching.
Wana venye wanaunganisha honi, wanaunganisha na betri, hizi betri tu za kawaida za kununua. Wanaunganisha na honi, so ile mnyama ikipigiwa ile honi na washe torch yenye iko kali, akikimbiza unaona sasa anapokimbiza na honi inalia, ile mnyama haitasikia venye unakanyanga. Na ile torch pia inampoteza asiweze kimbia, juu ukimulika atakuwa anaona hiyo kifuli yake mbele na hatakuwa anaweza kukimbia vizuri.
They killed a giraffe and smuggled it to the neighboring country, Tanzania, but it was how much they made that night that made Bar Masai know that he will come back.
Tulikuwa 4, tukapata kila mtu 11,400, nakumbuka vizuri sana. So nilipopata hiyo pesa na ilikuwa ya masaa, tulikuwa nyumbani saa 5, saa 11 asubuhi umeshapata ile pesa, na nikarudi nyumbani nikiwa na ile pesa. Nikaona ni mingi.
The value of illegal wildlife trade has been estimated at between 7 to 23 billion US dollars annually, making wildlife crime one of the most lucrative illegal businesses often run by sophisticated and well-organized criminal networks seeking to exploit the high rewards despite the risks involved.
Pindi hiyo ilikuwa ma game scout ama maranger hawakuwa wengi area hiyo yetu ya kwetu, so ilikuwa ni rahisi tu na uende vizuri. Labda ilikuwa tu ukifika pale mpakani ndo unang'ang'ana tu kuangalia vizuri, sababu ya unapata patrol ya polisi wako hapo. Sasa ingine ilikuwa tunakutana na wao, tunang'ang'ana kwa sababu wao wako na gari na ni vichochoro. Unapata tukikutana na wao tunapita hizi njia za vichochoro mpaka tunawapoteza, tunatoboa, tunaenda.
This did not last long, however, as the long arm of the law soon caught up with Barmasai and his colleagues.
Siku hiyo tulikuwa tumeua swala, tulikuwa na swala 2. Ndo tukachukuliwa. Basi tulishindwa kukimbia, tulianguka na pikipiki, ile mzigo ikatufinyilia chini, tukashikwa. Tukapelekwa, tukaenda tukafanya kesi. Mimi kwanza nikatoa bond ya 200,000. Nikatoka nikaja kesi nje. Tukakesi, tukaja tukushindwa kesi, tukaja tukafungwa. Nikafungwa miaka 3.
According to the Wildlife Conservation Management Act of 2013, poaching is illegal in Kenya. A person who engages in hunting for bushmeat trade or is in possession of or is dealing in any meat of any wildlife species commits an offence and shall be liable on conviction to a fine of not less than 200,000 shillings or to imprisonment for a term not less than 1 year or both.
Siwezi sema mimi nilipata faida yote na hiyo kazi. Ilikuwa ni pesa tu ya kukula na kwenda kukunywa, kwa sababu wakati hiyo ilikuwa nakunywa. Nashukuru Mungu kwa sababu wakati nilifungwa nikaja nikaokoka na nikaamua kuacha hiyo kazi.
The Amboseli National Park is home to hundreds of bird species and over 15 major species of wildlife, according to the World Wildlife Fund for Nature Program Coordinator for the Amboseli ecosystem, Dr. John Kioko. Poaching has led to a steady decline in the wildlife population, with some species being at risk of extinction.
For instance, gazelles are easy to hunt because you can freeze them using strong lights at night. Areas which are plain, it's easy to hunt as zebra because you can use a motorized vehicle like a motorbike to actually chase them, and they will get tired. The same case to animals like elands, they easily get tired. So depending also on the habitat, we've also seen displacement and extinction of these species.
The Big Life Foundation, which was founded in 2010, has been supporting conservation initiatives, protecting over 1.6 million acres of wilderness in the Amboseli, Tsavo, Kilimanjaro ecosystem in East Africa. Daniel Sambu, who heads the Predator Protection Program, tells me that while poaching of animals such as elephants and rhinos has received global attention due to the increased surveillance, there is a rising trend in poaching for domestic consumption of bushmeat.
In terms of subsistent poaching, people going for gazelle, dik-diks and other small herbivores is more localized. It's like people who cannot afford meat in butcheries, so they'll go for a cheap one. Especially we saw this during COVID when all the butcheries were closed. So the community, many people from the local community, from urban centers mostly, try to go and get the cheap meat from game meat.
Cross-border factors also threaten anti-poaching initiatives within communities in Kajiado County, which borders the Tanzanian regions of Arusha and Kilimanjaro to its south.
In Kenya, we don't allow conservative laws. In Tanzania, they do. So if, for example, I'm protecting a large tusky in Amboseli, and across the border is not fenced, and cross into a hunting block in Tanzania, it will be killed.
Investigations have shown that some of the meat, once it leaves the border, it's actually sold in the nearby markets in Tanzania, and that means it is probably disguised as a legal meat, which would have been acquired probably through sport hunting.
It's still a challenge, but I think both ministries from both countries are trying to find, through the East African community, they are trying to and fine-tune both laws so that we become one conservation block.
The Amboseli National Park covers an area of about 400 kilometers square. The park is not enough for the entire wildlife population, with over 80% of wildlife living outside the protected area. Non-governmental organizations such as the Big Life Foundation and the World Wildlife Fund for Nature are tirelessly working towards ensuring safety for wild animals through funding wildlife rangers and providing surveillance equipment to enable them work efficiently.
Kenya Wildlife Service rangers cannot really cover much of the space outside the national park, and that's why we have enlisted game scouts. We have about 300 game scouts within the Amboseli ecosystem, and these are being supported by different partners.
We have one of the most reliable technology. We call it DAS. We can monitor all our rangers in the field, including when they are doing patrols. We do aerial surveillance, and it is all monitored in one screen. If an incident happens, the radio room or the operation room can just call the nearest team.
It is a jungle where only the fittest survive, but with the increase in human encroachment, commercialized poaching, and now the prolonged drought, it is becoming extremely difficult for any wildlife species to stay alive. Animals can't speak, so who will speak for them? Safin Achieng Oma reporting for Citizen TV from the Amboseli National Park, Kajiado County.